down for your ride.
Right to vote, the obscure law that has stripped the rights from thousands of Californians, and the legal move that may help restore it. Plus, another step towards gender equality at the checkout line, the tax-free proposal headed to the governor's desk.
You get some people who ask you if you're a storm chaser. Some people ask if you're like with Google Street View, and it's not fancy enough to be a Google Street View car.
Settling the debate on natural gas and the mobile lab that's gathering evidence. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. San Diego's Metropolitan Transit System is taking a step towards greater transparency. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the audio of the agency's board meetings may soon be available online.
MTS has long posted the written minutes of its board meetings, but often not until more than a month later. So if you can't watch in person, you have to wait a while to find out what happened. KPBS asked MTS to start posting audio of board meetings to its website, and the agency said yes. Transparency advocates say MTS should be commended, and other public agencies should follow suit.
Those agencies that continue to refrain from posting that kind of content to their website really have no excuse. They need to get with the program and come into the 21st century.
Council President Lightner.
The City of San Diego live streams video of city council meetings and posts the archived videos online. But there's no state law requiring them to do that, or even to keep written minutes. Former San Diego City Councilwoman and transparency advocate Donna Fry says not all agencies can be trusted to do the right thing.
There are other government entities that I believe prefer being as obscure and inaccessible as possible so that people actually don't show up at their meetings. They like not having the public coming out and taking up their time.
The next MTS board meeting is on September 15th. The audio should be online by the next day. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
San Diego's independent budget analyst is out with its fiscal impact analysis of the Chargers Stadium plan. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says the review is mixed.
San Diego's independent budget analyst says the Charger Stadium project could work financially, or it might have problems. Jeff Kawar is the budget analyst's deputy director. He says there are three unknowns that make a financial review hard to do. There is no final cost for the project. The financing rates are unknown, and reviewers couldn't determine how tourist tax revenues will change over time. Even so, Kawar says they did look at scenarios where the financing plan actually works.
The project cash flows, in other words, the TU tax increase, is sufficient to cover the project-related cost, some of the tourism marketing funding that's promised, and ultimately would flow some revenue to the city's general fund. Conversely, we've seen scenarios, there are plausible scenarios where the TOT increase would not be sufficient to cover the project-related costs and the tourism marketing costs. And in that instance, the city's general fund might be asked to pick up some of those project-related costs.
The budget analyst prepared a review so it could be included on the ballot. It had to be limited to 500 words. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
The Chargers are scheduled to release their own study tomorrow on the economics of their downtown stadium plan. This comes after three critical reports of the proposal in the past few weeks. The Chargers have wanted a new stadium for about 15 years and have agreed to play at the new facility if Measure C passes. If it doesn't, the team has the option to join the Rams in Inglewood. Good news for parents with little ones. The San Diego Unified School District has announced starting today it's opening its pre-K program to all families. KPBS education reporter Megan Burks has details. Now, Megan, what can you tell us about today's announcement?
Well, San Diego Unified and other California districts have long offered free preschool for families whose incomes qualify. That's about $47,000 a year for a family of four. And that left out middle-income families with not enough money to pay the high price of private preschool. The district is now offering its pre-K program to families who don't qualify and are willing to pay a fee. Let's hear from the head of this new initiative.
For years, some working families have been left outside. Military families, families with 2 incomes, even those who make a few dollars over income guidelines. Today, I am excited to announce our new initiative to remove the barriers of pre-kindergarten.
Now we have a breakdown of the cost, which the district says is well below what many private providers charge. Parents will pay anywhere from $530 to $1,060 a month, depending on the kind of program and its location. There will also be discounts for military families and parents enrolling multiple children. And the program is open to families even if they don't live in district boundaries.
Now, Megan, the concern is this going to displace low-income children who previously filled these classes?
The district says no. Spots for low-income kids have actually gone unfilled in the past, and the district is adding 473 new spots across several new locations. You can see on the screen where students can enroll for a fee. The district says even if their roster is full, if an income-qualified student knocks on their door, they'll make room.
Now, officials are calling this a game changer. Is it?
For kids who get into these spots, absolutely. There's a strong link between preschool and academic achievement, but it doesn't really address the hollowing out of preschool access we're seeing. One criticism of the state's free preschool program is that parents who make just $1 over the threshold don't qualify. So you have parents who on paper should be able to pay for preschool, but in reality cannot. Now, can they pay the $530 or $1,000 a month the district is charging? Probably not. So it's not a game changer in that larger sense, but it is absolutely expanding preschool access in San Diego and even expanding the infrastructure for when or if the state and federal governments add additional resources.
Something to follow. Megan Burks, thank you very much. MiraCosta College will put a $455 million bond measure on the November ballot. KPBS North County reporter Allison St. John says the community college narrowly failed to pass a bond measure about 4 years ago and hopes this time will be different.
MiraCosta College has not passed a general obligation bond measure for more than 50 years, since their first campus was built in Oceanside in the 1960s. The campus is growing as more students choose to start their higher education at a community college because it's more affordable than going to a traditional four-year college. Many of the buildings are old and the college is short of lab space and classrooms for science courses. There's a high demand for nursing training, and 1,800 veterans and their family members attend the college. MiraCosta will also launch its first four-year bachelor's degree next year in biomanufacturing. The bond money would be used to upgrade the older buildings, add new science labs, improve communications technology, and meet earthquake safety standards. It could not be used for salaries or pensions. The college tried 4 years ago with a bond proposal for almost $500 million. That failed by just 200 votes to get the necessary 55% to pass. This year they've reassessed their master plan and shaved off more than $40 million. If passed, the $455 million bond would cost homeowners in North County coastal communities about $15 per $100,000 of assessed property value annually. From the KPBS North County Bureau, I'm Allison St. John reporting.
Taking the fight for voting rights to the Department of Justice, a former NPR producer joined a class action complaint demanding the right to cast his ballot. David Rector is one of thousands of disabled Californians who lost that right.
Rosalind Alexander Kasparek stands beside her fiancé, David Rector. With the support of friends, they're trying to get the attention of the U.S. Department of Justice, the way they've gotten the attention and support of attorney Thomas Coleman.
There's no words. We have looked for attorneys to take on these types of cases for David, on behalf of David, for the last 7 years.
David Rector is a quadriplegic. The former National Public Radio producer had a massive stroke in 2009. He's legally made Kasparek his conservator, and in the process, they say a judge took away his voting rights.
So maybe they can't make decisions for medical or financial transactions, but they know if they like Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump.
Last year, the California legislature passed Senate Bill 589, deciding that those who are under court guardianship because of disabilities are presumed to be mentally competent to vote, unless a judge specifically finds they are incapable. On behalf of Rector and the estimated 32,000 disabled California citizens who've lost their voting rights, Spectrum Institute has filed a class action complaint with the Department of Justice requesting that SB 589 is enforced in time for the November elections.
And the judges have been dragging their feet. The judges who took their voting rights away now have an obligation to restore those voting rights, and they need to do it immediately.
Rector and supporters traveled several blocks from the U.S. Attorney's downtown San Diego office to the San Diego Superior Court building. Ironically, they had difficulty getting his wheelchair through the walkway of the outdated building so that he could ask for the restoration of his voting rights. Our cameras were not allowed inside, but a few minutes after the group went in, they came out victorious.
But after he'd handed her the letter, he did manage to say, through his electronic voice on his eye-tracking device, I, David Rector, want my voting rights restored immediately.
And how did that make you feel?
It made me feel great.
Supporters say they hope this attention translates to action.
It's not clear what happens next now that the complaint has been filed, nor do we know if any action will happen before the November election. False alarm. Test on a resident of South Park who showed symptoms of the Zika virus or a similar disease has come back negative. County health officials had sprayed a 2-block area in South Park on Friday after that resident had returned home from visiting a country where mosquito-borne illnesses are prevalent and showing symptoms. Officials say they will continue routine mosquito monitoring in the area. President Barack Obama was in Louisiana today, surveying the damage done by the recent flooding. He promises a sustained national effort to rebuild the destroyed neighborhoods that inundated with water. He says today's visit was not a photo op.
What I want the people of Louisiana to know is that you're not alone on this. Even after the TV cameras leave, the whole country is going to continue to support you and help you until we get folks back in their homes and lives are rebuilt. And the reason I can say that with confidence is because that's what Americans do in times like this.
And critics, including GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump, says President Obama should have gone to the region sooner. Trump visited Baton Rouge on Friday. A curfew that went into effect in East Baton Rouge Parish after the catastrophic flooding has been suspended. The sheriff there says the curfew was imposed to let first responders safely do their jobs and to allow residents to survey the damage to their homes. At least 19 people have been arrested on looting charges since the curfew went into effect. The San Diego officer who was critically wounded during a shootout last month has returned home to recover. Officer Wade Irwin was discharged from a trauma center on Saturday. Irwin took a bullet to the neck. His partner, Jonathan de Guzman, was killed during that shootout on July 28th. The man who allegedly shot the officers, 52-year-old ex-convict Jesse Michael Gomez, has pleaded not guilty. He awaits a court hearing scheduled for September. San Diego is home to many of the first littoral combat ships. The program has faced a lot of scrutiny, and now contractors are being encouraged to keep designing uses for the ships. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh has the story.
So we're out here at the Convention Center at the Navy's Gold Coast Conference. It's essentially for small business people who want to contract with the Navy. One of the highlights is they got to hear from the new admiral in charge of the Littoral Combat Ship program. It's a program that has not been without controversy.
It's one of the newest, most high-tech ships in the fleet, designed for a handful of different roles with a brand new propulsion system. 2 of the ships broke down within months of each other earlier in the year. The Pentagon cut its order from 52 ships to 40. Rear Admiral John Negley took over the program 4 months ago.
Well, we're going to continue to build ships in accordance with the President's budget, and we'll bring those ships out here, and they'll continue to do great missions for the fleet. They do bring tremendous capability and a lot of flexibility.
The ship is designed to be reconfigured. The Admiral encouraged contractors to create new platforms for the LCS, like different drones or sonar packages.
This is the 28th year for the Gold Coast Conference. You see all sorts of exhibitors, from people who are handling drones to folks who have new forms of body armor. Apparently it's been a little bit more successful this year than last year. They had about 1,300 people last year. Now they're expecting about 1,500. And the number of exhibitors jumped from 100 to over 200 this year, which the organizers say means it's been pretty successful. It maybe means a good year for the defense industry here in San Diego. Reporting from the Convention Center, Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Clear skies and sunshine on tap for San Diego. Heather Waldman says the temperatures are expected to drop a bit this week. She has that in tonight's KPBS Weather Report.
Well, it was another day of seasonable warmth across central and southern California, back out into the deserts. You can see that little swirl there with clouds and showers. That's an upper level area of low pressure. It's going to keep moving eastward, and it's going to take the threat for showers and storms east along with it. Of course, we didn't see much across the Golden State to begin with, but this will keep the air even drier as we go through the second half of this week. And that means temperatures will stay fairly close to where they should be over the next couple of days. Nighttime temperature tonight in the metro area will stay in the mid-60s. Few clouds around. We'll be watching for some of that coastal fog, a little bit of low cloud action close to the immediate shoreline, but otherwise clear skies as you go inland. Ramona tonight gets to 56 degrees. We'll stay in the 70s in Borrego Springs, even close to 80 in Mecca. 51 your low in Mount Laguna, 53 in Campo. Here's the setup for the day on Wednesday. Again, that area of low pressure is moving eastward. It's taking the chance for the showers and storms with it. Instead, we get a dry westerly wind. I know it seems kind of counterintuitive. Winds off the Pacific actually dry, but we're talking mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, and that translates down close to the surface as well. Of course, the one exception is going to be the immediate coastline, where we do get that little pinch of moisture coming off the immediate coast. So that'll keep some low clouds and fog in the picture for the next couple of days, mainly during the morning hours, of course. Later on this week, more of a southerly breeze, and that's going to start to warm things up mainly off to the north. Not a whole lot of change across Southern California or into the deserts of the Four Corners either. Start you off with the coast. 5-day forecast has temperatures in the upper 70s Wednesday. Low clouds and sunshine. That pattern starts to become a little bit more evident Friday into Saturday. Temperatures will actually drop off just a couple of degrees, so not really a noticeable change over the next few afternoons. Inland, just a touch warmer, plenty of sunshine. On Wednesday, high 87 degrees. We'll stay in the lower 80s Thursday through Sunday. Beautiful weekend coming up. Temperatures will be comfortably cool in the morning and then nice and warm during the afternoon. Into the mountains we go. Hey, if you're heading out hiking this weekend, dress in layers. Temperatures will be starting off in the upper 40s on Saturday, 70s though by the afternoon. Just beautiful. Mostly sunny each afternoon. That sun's still very strong here in late August, so don't forget the sunscreen. Finally, the desert's triple-digit heat Wednesday and Thursday. Then we back off those temperatures just a little bit. Friday and Saturday will stay around 99 degrees, but really, with the sunshine being so strong, it's all a wash. It's going to feel hot in the afternoons and even get a little bit on the cooler side late in the evening into the morning. So here as well, you may want to bring the jackets if you do get cool easily. Heather Waldman, KPBS News.
The decision to close the world's largest refugee camp has been put on hold, at least for now. The International Business Times reports Kenya may delay its decision to close the Dadaab refugee camp until many of its 320,000 Somali residents can safely return to their home country. San Diego is home to tens of thousands of Somalis, many of whom have friends or family in the camp. The president of the Somali Bantu Association of America in San Diego says he's happy about the news, but still a bit cautious.
But I need to hear that in writing, something that is a confirmation.
Officials from Kenya, Somalia, and the United Nations High Commissioners for Refugees will meet in October to discuss the situation. A California bill eliminating taxes for feminine hygiene products is headed to the governor's desk. The measure was unanimously passed by both houses. It exempts menstrual products like tampons from sales tax. Authors of the bill say its passing is a step towards gender equality in the state. We've heard about brain injuries caused by the rough and tumble action in the NFL. Now experts are studying similar injuries in domestic abuse. Associated Press reporter Brian Skuloff takes us inside the program that helps survivors of abuse heal.
So one of the things we wanted to show you today was your brain MRI.
Susan Contreras has had a rough life.
There's your brain, and I'm going to show you there's your eye.
She's never played football, but shares some of the same symptoms of many players.
Arms out to the side.
Memory loss, seizures, and headaches, all from repeated head trauma.
I knew it was from the abuse. I didn't have any of those problems before.
Contreras says she ended up homeless and unemployed after leaving an abusive relationship.
This is a woman who came to see us after many, many years of being abused. The similarities between this population and the professional athlete are astounding.
While brain injuries from concussions in NFL players have garnered a lot of attention, Experts now say domestic violence victims also face a great risk. Studies show head and neck injuries are common among abuse victims and that the assaults may cause brain injuries in at least 60% of survivors.
And that force causes the brain to move within the skull. When it moves within the skull, it can bash up against the skull and it can cause tearing of blood vessels. It can cause damage to the brain tissue.
Dr. Cardenas says brain injuries and domestic assaults have been largely under-recognized in the medical community, why he's now heading up a unique program at the Barrow Neurological Institute in Phoenix. It was the brainchild of social worker Ashley Bridwell, who saw too many domestic violence victims living in shelters and suffering in silence, unaware their beatings are likely the cause of their constant pain and confusion.
So when we give them something to call it and we tell them that there are resources and there are therapies and there are medications to help address the issues, it's a huge source of relief.
So this is your head, and you're looking upwards because your eyes are up there.
For Contreras, a program participant, she finally sees a path forward.
You're going well?
Really good.
Good.
Really good. They've given me hope to re-enter back into society. You know, I didn't have that hope before. I had too many physical problems.
A chance to reclaim her life. Brian Skoloff, Associated Press, Phoenix.
Take a few steps towards the wall, but do it like on a tightrope, the heel to toe.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, I sit down with the Green Party presidential candidate, Jill Stein. That's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
California's latest cap-and-trade auction has generated just $8 million. The results of last week's auction was released today. It adds up to a weaker one than the one in May, when only 2% of carbon emission credits were sold. Democratic leaders say the data will help lawmakers decide how to allocate the $1.3 billion of unspent auction proceeds to the programs that reduce greenhouse gases. NASA has been using satellites to measure greenhouse gases for years, but now some scientists in Pennsylvania are using a more down-to-earth approach for the data. The story from producer Reed Frazier from the Allegheny Front, next.
People are very curious. You get some people who ask you if you're a storm chaser. Some people ask if you're like with Google Street View, and it's not fancy enough to be a Google Street View car. So we're in northeastern Pennsylvania. This region has had a lot of what we would call sort of new or unconventional natural gas development. And so here we're conducting a 3-week campaign to measure methane emissions that might be leaking from production sites and compressor stations. And we're also taking samples to measure for some pollutants of concern to human health, like benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and xylenes. So we measure methane specifically because we're concerned about the climate impacts of natural gas production. If you're burning natural gas in lieu of coal, your net carbon dioxide emissions are much lower. But if you're leaking methane into the atmosphere, methane is a much more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And there have been several studies that have shown, either using a combination of techniques, that there is a fairly significant portion of methane that is leaking from these facilities. So it's our job to try to drive around and look at different infrastructure, go to different sites with different operators, sites that have different levels of production, different facility age, and try to understand, how much methane is leaking from these sites, and from a basin level perspective, figure out where we're doing on the climate trade-off of replacing coal with natural gas. So we rely a lot on extremely accurate meteorological data. So we have 2 weather stations that protrude from the front of the van, and those give us very accurate measurements of things like wind speed and wind direction. So when we're driving around past facilities, we can know if we pick up a plume of methane that it actually is coming from that facility. So we know that it's natural gas. It's quite a large leak. That's about. The instruments that we have are sensitive down to 10 parts per billion. So imagine if you had, in a box, a very large box, you had, 1 billion marbles, only 10 of them, if 10 of them were colored red, our instrument would be sensitive enough to pick up that kind of change in background of methane.
What did you say about a minute ago?
Are you going to keep sampling?
Oh yeah, we're not done.
We need to be measuring these sites
to get an idea of whether the laws being enacted or the different policies that different operators are putting in place to curb these emissions, whether they're actually working. And so this is important for us to keep doing, because we get more information, we get more data, and we're able to present that to the public, and so avoid any confusion about whether natural gas is good or not, because there's a whole lot of confusion out there about the impact of natural gas exploration and production on the air that we breathe, the water that we drink. And so, these studies are important. We have to keep doing them for that purpose.
This Allegheny Front report was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Midday Edition, a murder case made famous by the Serial podcast is now the subject of a new book. We'll be speaking to the author about the search for truth and justice after Serial. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.